What's up, everybody? Welcome in to our MLB DFS DraftKings Picks video for August 3rd. I'm your host, Ben Hostler, joined by Justin Bales. We're trying in an effort to grow our YouTube channel a little bit more over the next year. We're trying a new format of videos. Instead of the usual live streams that you guys have been watching, we're going to go with the pre-recorded videos. We're going to try and get these out as early in the day as possible moving forward. So, hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys do enjoy this new type of video, be sure to comment and let us know. And if you guys want to support us, this is really easy. It's free. It costs $0 to do this. Just like the video, subscribe to the channel. $0. It's a way to support us, and it really helps out. And we really appreciate that. But Bales, how are you doing? First ever night before baseball pod together. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel good about the pod. I feel terrible about this lighting. Anyone that's watching this where they're just listening, good for you. Anyone that's actually like watching the screen right now, I need a different setup because usually I have the sun beaming in these massive windows that we have, but when it's pitch black out, only light is coming from behind me, and I probably look like I'm slightly dead at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's a process, right? Like we're not used to doing these night before videos. It's a process. I just redid my setup. I'm actually not completely onto the new setup yet, but I have a lot of neon lights around me, so I'm like kind of glowing. It's no longer pitch black Ben at night anymore on
It's
these
got like a club
podcasts.
feel to it.
Yeah, I got a little glow going. Even though I'm not completely onto the new computer, but I do get a little glow going. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start talking about Tuesday's massive 15-game slate. This is an interesting slate. Just looking at it, obviously 15 gamers are always super interesting on these Tuesdays. We got some big name pitchers on the board here. We have Garrett Cole against the Orioles, Walker Buehler against Houston. Then it kind of drops off. We have Zack Wheeler, who's been one of the best pitchers in the National League this season, and then you have guys like Tyler Mahle, Sean Manaea, Lance McCullers Jr., Blake Snell. So kind of how you and I don't know, at least for the majority of the season, I have been really spending up at pitcher, especially in cash games, just because there's been so many cheap bats. It's been super easy to get the double, spend up at pitcher for like your optimal lineup. If you sort this slate by strikeout rate, you see Cole is still at the top there at 34%. Next closest is going to be Wheeler, who's just under 30%. So kind of a big gap there, and then it drops down. Everyone else is below 30%. So I do still think Cole is going to be my top option with Buehler in that tough matchup against the Astros, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on the top of pitcher here.
Yeah, so Zack Wheeler, I'm sure this has been like the thing that everyone knows is my number one tonight. Been backing Zack Wheeler for quite some time. Not going to stop now when he's underpriced against Washington, who just sold basically all of their good players. Garrett Cole and Walker Buehler, I think, is where it gets a little more interesting, just because Cole has all of the metrics and he has the matchup against Baltimore, whereas Buehler has been arguably the most consistent pitcher, especially in terms of fantasy, in basically the entire MLB all season. He's just really, really good. The problem is he plays Houston, and that's not something that I like attacking. So I think if I'm going to play one of the top pitchers, it's going to be Zack Wheeler. If I play two, it's likely Zack Wheeler and Garrett Cole. But anyone above Sean Manaea, I have absolutely no issues with. It's basically those three and Tyler Mahle. I'm 100% fine if you want to use him. I just think that he's more or less in a tier below the other three, with Wheeler and Cole being the 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Super good matchup for Wheeler, like you said, with some of the trades that Washington made. And I do agree, if I'm going to double spend up, which I'm going to strongly consider heading into Tuesday night, it's probably going to be for the Cole and Wheeler combo. Buehler is completely fine in tournaments, just don't want to side with him from a cash game perspective in that matchup. Outside of the kind of big three that we just talked about, does anyone jump off the page to you? The one guy that immediately stuck out to me was Dylan Cease at 8,400. He's actually third on this slate in strikeout rate at 29%. The Royals' offense Hasn't been super good recently. They just sold, not sold. I've been talking a lot of soccer recently. They did not sell him, but they traded Jorge Soler to the Atlanta Braves. If you look at the last 14 days, last 2 weeks of baseball, they're actually outside the top 25 in baseball in WRC plus as a team, just 88. So offense hasn't been super good recently. Cease does have that strikeout ability, and I like his price point at 8,400 there on DraftKings.
Yeah, there's three guys here that kind of, I wouldn't say jump off the page, but are interesting to me. Dylan Cease is the number one by far. I love his strikeout upside. I like the matchup against Kansas City. Cease has been significantly better at home this season as well. And if you look at the Royals, even though they play in a pretty pitcher-friendly stadium, they're a better offense at home. So it kind of just all adds up for Cease to find success tonight. The other two are right above him with Taijuan Walker. I don't know what's happened to him. I know that very obviously when you looked at his advanced metrics, he couldn't have sustained what he was doing early in the season. With that said, Taijuan Walker has always been a guy that has beat his advanced metrics, like his xFIP. He's just always avoided regression. So I do think he can keep his ERA down, still relatively low, but it's almost up at 4 at this point. He's given up 5 or more in 3 straight. He's struck out 2 or less in 3 of his last 4. A lot going against him, but he gets a really good matchup against Miami, who was another team that was a seller at the deadline. At 8,500, I think that's 100% viable. I just also think that he's behind Cease. And then the final one is Jin Ryu at 8,700. I know that you love using left-handed pitching against Cleveland. I know that they traded Eddie Rosario, but they still have a few bats that you're going to be a little worried about. It's just not an offense overall that's going to scare you away. And Ryu's been throwing extremely well. I think he has 23 plus in 3 of his last 4. He scored over 30 fantasy points in 1 of those. So I do think that he's a very viable tournament option. I just think most likely in cash, if you're playing any of these guys, it's going to be Dylan Cease, but it's going to be hard to drop down off of someone like Wheeler, who isn't that much more expensive than Cease. That's just, it's moving a very good bet to like a mediocre to slightly below average bet. So I don't think you're going to come off of a guy like Zack Wheeler to play anyone in the mid tier here. But Cease is my favorite, followed by Walker and Ryu.
Yeah, I think you covered that pretty well. Indians are an interesting case. Like, they don't strike out a ton against left-handed pitching, but I mean, this is an offense that I'm fine attacking down the stretch of the season here. But I think I would probably rank them kind of how you address them. It would be Cease number 1, Walker number 2 for me in that tier. Is there anyone else? Like, I'm looking down below here. Like, Snell is probably going to pop in projections per usual. I mean, he's up to 8,900 though. He's a little bit cheaper, I feel like, for a minute there. I don't have a ton of interest in him as of right now on this slate, and I don't see anyone interesting. I mean, like, Maeda's been someone that's been kind of chalky the last couple times he has pitched. I don't love attacking Cincy. 8K is a decent price point, but again, probably not somewhere I'm going to go on this specific slate, at least as of right now. If you want to get weird, is there anyone in that tier, like, below 8K that you would get weird with? I think maybe, I don't know, maybe Zach Plesac. I do believe in him long term. Blue Jays actually got carved up by Eli Morgan today. I don't know what was going on with that. I was watching that game a little bit. They were struggling. Plesac does have some upside. Like, if you look at that tier, I mean, you have like Hauser against Pittsburgh. Like, that's obviously a much better matchup on paper. But I feel like Plesac is a better pitcher, and he has more of a strikeout upside. So I guess if I was going to get absolutely weird with someone for tournaments, it might be him. I don't see a ton else that I like down here. It's a bunch of pretty bad pitchers, to be honest.
Yeah, so for me down here, I don't really want to use anyone down here. If I don't have to come down to below 8,000, I'm not going to. If I was going to, you talked about Adrian Hauser. That is a guy that I would consider using, but you're right with the limited strikeout upside. It's just he gets the good matchup against Pittsburgh. I think if you want to go to a similar pitcher as that, Johnny Cueto, but I don't necessarily love him throwing in Arizona. And then it's kind of weird, and I don't think either pitcher's good, and I do believe that it depends almost exclusively on who's starting. But Jose Suarez, assuming he's starting, and Jordan Lyles, I can't believe I'm saying that right now. I think that they're both reasonable. If you look at how the Angels and Rangers have been playing over the last 2 weeks, it's absolutely dreadful. Their WOBAs are like legitimately right around 220 as an entire team. It's just absolutely terrible, both of them. So I think if you wanted to take like your weird shot at a pitcher, it's not like Lyles hasn't posted decent starts at points this season. So, you know, the upside's kind of there. And at 5,100, like, I don't know, usually you're not going to get like 20 plus fantasy points out of a 5K pitcher, but Lyles legitimately has the potential to do that. And I don't want to use him, but if you really want to save the salary, I do think that he's at least slightly viable.
All right. I think we covered pitcher pretty well. I'm gonna say let's save the stacks for last here, and let's go through some positional plays. I'll lead off here at catcher. I think at the top tier of catcher tonight, you're going to have Wilson Contreras against a pretty bad lefty in Coors Field. That's obviously going to pique our interest if you're spending up. And then I'm kind of looking at Buster Posey here at 4,700. So we have this revenge game, Mad Bum against his former team, the Giants. But then you also get it's like in Uno when you play the reverse, you know. Like Posey caught Madison Bumgarner for like his entire career, and you know he's probably pretty familiar with his pitches, I would say. So I like those guys. If you are spending up for cheap, I can't ignore in the low 2K tier our boy Jonah Heim, double homer for us the other night in the optimal core plays at DFS Karma. He actually was hitting cleanup for the Rangers tonight. I'm assuming if they had him hitting cleanup tonight, he's going to be in a favorable lineup spot tomorrow night. So that's probably my top punt play here.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I think that Contreras is really the top option. Omar Narvaez kind of sticks out to me just because he gets a really good matchup. And then anytime James McCann's starting against a left-handed pitcher, I have no problems with him, especially for how cheap his price tag is at 3,400. One more punt option, and you know, it's a guy that we've actually played a decent amount. Didn't get him on his 3 home run game, but Sebi Zavala is 2,300. Assuming he starts, I really like the White Sox. I actually stacked the White Sox the night Zavala hit 3. It's just like very obviously I didn't play him in a White Sox stack. So I don't know. I feel like he owes me a little bit of money now.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually talked about that. So I don't remember the exact dynamics of that specific slate, but that was also the night that Jonah Heim hit 2 home runs. And yeah, a lot of people were playing a mid-tier catcher. I don't remember who it was, but I went down to the min price. They both were min priced, and I was strongly debating both of them, and I went with Jonah Heim. And I think Zavala hit 2 before Heim even hit 1, so I was like immediately just tilting. Because the one I didn't pick hit 2 home runs already, but then Heim ended up homering twice. It didn't matter. But, yeah, if he's in the lineup, we're definitely going to be interested in the White Sox here against Bubic, so I don't disagree with that. First base, I'll let you start off here. There are a couple names that I do really like here first.
Yeah, I mean, if you're spending up, it's really difficult to go wrong. You have Pete Alonso against a bad lefty. No issues there whatsoever. You have literally the hottest hitter in the MLB in Joey Votto, who finally didn't homer. He gets a plus matchup against Kenta Maeda. I have no problems with that playing in Cincinnati. His numbers in Cincy against right-handed pitching are just crazy this season. And then you have Jose Abreu against a bad lefty and Chris Bubic. So absolutely fine with any of them. With that being said, you don't really have to do that because you can go down to someone at like 4,700. We have Anthony Rizzo. I know it's a lefty-lefty matchup, but one, Wells isn't going to throw deep into this game, I doubt. So he'll see plenty of Baltimore's bullpen, which that in itself is a good matchup. And two, does it really matter when he's playing in the Yankees stadium? Like it's so hitter friendly to lefties that Rizzo's just going to get a jump from basically anything. And then even so below that at 4,400, we have Patrick Wisdom, who gets the elite matchup in Colorado against Kyle Freeland, who's one of my favorite pitchers to attack. So, I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can go here. You can even drop down farther with someone like Darren Ruff. Obviously, he'll be starting against Bumgarner. I mean, I don't know. There's just way too many places to go, and it's in kind of all pricing tiers tonight.
Yeah, 15 games. There's going to be tons of options. I think you nailed the spend ups. Definitely can use Alonso if you want. Abreu over 300 ISO against left-handed pitching, so we're going to be super interested in him. And then Votto, I mean, yeah, he's been red hot. If you look at the last 2 weeks, 60% hard hit rate, about 50% fly ball rate, just under 50% fly ball rate. Elite batted ball numbers. Really tough to fade him as well. You nailed the mid-tier with Wisdom in Coors Field, kind of enjoying that little breakout season here. Super late. We've talked about this in Discord a couple times, but this was at one point a pretty top prospect. Never really panned out, but he's been having a really good year for the Cubs. He has been hitting lefties really well, so I agree with that. And then for cheap, I'm interested once again in the Tigers. Not going to full stack them on this slate because it's 15 games, but their matchup's really good. Dude, don't look now. Miguel Cabrera, last 14 days, 53% hard contact rate, 46% fly ball rate. My man has been locked in at the plate.
Yep, he's killing it. I'll add very quickly for 100 cheaper than Miguel Cabrera. And don't get me wrong, I think Cabrera is a great play, but I think you have a decision to make here just because the matchup's so good. Rowdy Toles is 3,000, and he's another guy that's been playing extremely well in recent games.
Yeah, so Teles is someone that was really chalky on the Monday night slate. He gets the lefty-righty matchup again at 3K. I'm assuming, given how high he was owned on Monday, he is going to once again garner a good amount of ownership on the Tuesday slate. So he's going to be in consideration for cash games as well. We can move on to second base. I think, do you have anyone else you want to mention there?
No, I think we covered first. That's honestly a lot of players that we gave out.
Yeah, it's just so many plays on these big slates. It's a tough, always tough slates to dive into when there's so many games. Second base, far and away my favorite option at first look is going to be Ozzie Albies against John Lester here. Lester, one of our favorite pitchers to stack against. Obviously, the Braves hit left-handed pitching pretty well. If you look at Ozzie in particular. 402 WOBA against lefties compared to a 327 mark against righties. So he's going to be my favorite spend up as of right now. If you want someone cheaper, we're going to get Cesar Hernandez leading off, or maybe not leading off, but at the top of the White Sox lineup, top 3 spot there for one of our favorite stacks. You can use him in the mid tier. That was the 2 that really stuck out to me at first glance.
Yeah, those 2, 100% fine with either of them. I think that both are elite plays. They would probably be my top 2 as well. A different guy that really sticks out to me, and I mean, if you can tell me what's up with his price, I'll be very impressed. Ryan McMahon is 3,600 tonight, playing in Coors against Zach Davies.
Yeah, I don't know. We've kind of seen this on a couple of these bigger slates this season, but it's just this Rockies team. They just haven't been good, even at home, kind of what we're accustomed to from the past. So what's been happening is the algorithm for DraftKings is just pricing these guys down because they're not good. I mean, we've talked about their road numbers as a team, how bad they are. Like, they're far and away the worst. It's crazy. Like, there's no one even close to them. So it's just accounting for, like, half their games not being there, and it's still knocking them down price-wise like that.
Yeah, I think I believe they're on a road. They were on a 7-game road stint, weren't they? They played 4 against the Dodgers, and then
yeah, we haven't had a Coors slate in a while here.
Yeah, then 3 against the Padres after that. So 7 road games. When you look at McMahon, the last time he played in Coors, he was right around 5,000. I have to assume that that's probably where he goes back to the next time they play. But for tonight, I like Hernandez as much as the next guy. We've been touting him since the White Sox got him as a great play, and he's been doing fine. But it's really difficult not to play Ryan McMahon, especially against a guy like Davies who just isn't good.
Yeah, and it's tough to really dive into like projected ownership and leveraging that the night before because it's so far out. We're almost 24 hours away from lock, but we'd have to think McMahon is going to garner some ownership on DraftKings at that price tag, at least in cash games.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be really shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah, so I think we covered second. Well, let's move on to third base. I think we have another situation similar to the McMahon one at third base, and that is David Bode. So he's going to be in the lineup for the Cubs, given the amount of trades they made at the deadline. He's only 2,700, gets the righty lefty matchup in Coors Field. I'm assuming he's just going to be massive chalk. These are the types of plays that you can make in like your optimal lineup that's going to allow you to fit in Zack Wheeler and Garrett Cole together at pitcher.
Yeah, I agree. The problem that I have is, and I'm sure you agree with it, but third base at the top is just stacked tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very similar to first base. I mean, even if you just talk about someone like Chris Bryant, who was really high owned on Monday, really short slate, only 7-8 games. Chris Bryant, actually, I don't think that game is locked yet, but was projected to be the highest owned hitter on the slate. Another good matchup for him. He's at the top, and there's some other pretty big names. So similar makeup to first base at third today.
Yep. Devers at 5,700. I know it's expensive, but the dude absolutely rakes right-handed pitching, and Willie Peralta is not a guy that I'm going to be scared away from. He's due for regression. It's coming. Jose Ramirez, I talked about I do like Rue, but Jose Ramirez has been on absolute fire. I'm fine with him. Not the highest average, but he's still scoring plenty of fantasy points. If you look at a guy like Manny Machado, he's another dude that's been playing extremely well. DJ LeMahieu hasn't been playing as well, but gets the matchup against Wells. You already mentioned Chris Bryant. You can even add in like Yoan Moncada if you move down a little bit. Kyle Seeger against Patina tonight. It's just a good play. Austin Riley has been hot as literally anyone in MLB not named Joey Votto. And even that, he's actually coming pretty close to Votto. I think he's got 7 home runs over his last 10 games. Riley's still 4,100 and gets a matchup against Leicester today. Like there's just so many plays that are crazy. And then you just obviously have Bode, and Ryan McMahon's also third base eligible. So it's like, you kind of have to spend down here, especially in cash. But man, there's like 10 plays that you could say are basically elite tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered the position really well. You nailed the mid tier. The two guys I felt really good about, Kyle Seeger and Austin Riley. Riley is the exact type of guy that has been really streaky throughout his career. This is the type of guy we like to ride when he's in those power surges, and he's certainly been on one. Love the matchup there. And Seeger, I mean, he's always at the top of my one-off board, right? Like, you never want a full stack Seattle, but he strikes out a lot, so he's a little bit riskier than, like, your average hitter. But he has that elite batted ball profile. He hits the ball hard. He hits it in the air, and he has power. So I do like Seeger in the mid-tier as well.
How do you feel about Abraham Toro? Just because he's 3,100 and obviously has just been playing at an elite level since getting traded to Seattle.
Yeah, he was another guy. He was popping in projections tonight for the Monday slate. He is cheap. I would say he's fine as a one-off or in tournaments. Cash games, I couldn't see myself playing him over Bode just because of the price tag if you're going to drop down that low. But for tournaments or like one-offs, I think he's completely fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
All right, shortstop. At first glance here, I don't love the top tier much. I think Willy Adames is someone you can always make the case for. It's kind of shocking that he's been at this price level for the last couple days, and it's warranted with how well he's played since joining the Brewers. He's hitting the ball really hard. They have a decent matchup against Kranick and the Pirates bullpen there, so I think you can consider him if you're spending up. Corey Seager in particular is someone that I think is too cheap at 4,500. Like, we just know that he's a 5K hitter, so you're getting him at a little bit of a discount, and I think you could use him in all formats. I think if you're looking for like a cash game play and you're not going to focus on Coors Field, probably Dansby Swanson. Braves are honestly not that expensive as a stack against Lester outside of Albies. I mean, we kind of talked about Riley being too cheap, Swanson's cheap, and then some of their outfielders are cheap as well when we get over there.
Yeah, I completely agree. You pretty much outlined it extremely well. I think that Tim Anderson always could be used against a lefty, especially a weak one. I have no problems if you want to spend up on someone like Javi Baez, but I do agree that there are better options. No, I mean, you pretty much said what I was thinking. The only guy that I guess I'll add is Kyle Farmer. And it feels so weird saying that because he's now at 3,600 and he hits late in the Cincinnati lineup. It's not like you're getting him against a lefty with Kenta Maeda on the mound, but it's just too cheap for how well he's been playing. He's hitting like almost 500 over his last 10. It's actually pretty incredible. But I do think that he's a really good play if you need to save some money here.
Yeah, I don't mind him for a punt. Let's finish up here with outfield. I'll let you lead off this position here.
I mean, let's be real. There's so many guys that you can use. You can use basically anyone for Colorado or Chicago that's starting. The most expensive is Charlie Blackmon at 4,100, and you obviously get the game in Coors. So it's just pretty crazy that all of the outfield or the potential outfielders, especially a guy like Rafael Ortega, who's just been absolutely on a tear. The problem is it's a lefty-lefty matchup. So I don't know if since he's moved to the leadoff spot, if he's faced a lefty to the point where he won't be leading off. But he's 2,600 playing in Coors. I don't really even care about the matchup for that. Outside of them, you have guys for the White Sox. I mean, that's an outfield that you're relatively fine with against a lefty of like Adam Engel. Andrew Vaughn is down to 3,100. So there are really good options there. Eloy Jimenez is up to 43, but he's completely fine, assuming he's starting. I don't know, dude. There's so many outfielders that you can use. I think I would prioritize, if I'm spending up, Aaron Judge, just with the matchup against the Wells. He's only 4,800. It's just way too cheap for that type of a matchup, especially in New York. I think the same can be said for Giancarlo Stanton, who's only 4,100. It's just ridiculously cheap. But I don't know. That's a lot of different guys, and we haven't even touched on like some of the other top stacks that you can use. Like I don't know, Andrew McCutchen's back against Patrick Corbin. We didn't touch on any of the Braves guys. I didn't talk about Milwaukee at all, Boston. So that's a lot of outfielders. It's hard to narrow down your pool when looking at what at minimum 45 outfielders, right?
Yeah, obviously, tons of outfielders on these big slates. You can certainly focus on these Coors guys in cash games. You get Nelson Cruz against the lefty at the top here. He definitely stuck out to me, in addition to some of the Yankees guys that you were just talking about. In the mid-tier, Adam Duvall at his price against the lefty, fitting with that Braves stack. I definitely like him. And kind of since I've already noted, I really, even though it's the night before, I really would like to get to Garrett Cole and Zack Wheeler together. In cash games, I'm looking for some of these cheaper guys. Cole Calhoun's going to be a cheap leadoff guy that you can consider against Cueto. Andrew Vaughn, again, super cheap against a lefty. He has obviously huge power, and it's someone that you and I have played pretty regularly. Dylan Carlson, 50% hard hit rate over the last 14 days. He is extremely cheap. So there's a ton of cheap bats here once again in the outfield. Akil Baddoo's price is down a little bit, and the Tigers are in a good matchup against Richards. So I think there's a lot of value here, and there's obviously some quality spend-ups as well that you kind of touched on there at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the outfield on a 15-game slate. There's just so many guys that you can use. It's crazy.
Jorge Soler, 3,100. There's another one. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and there's so many that are just ridiculously priced too.
Yeah, tons of options at outfield. So since there are so many options at outfield, if you guys are watching this still, head to the comment section, type in your favorite outfielder for Tuesday slate. Let us know who you're playing. Bales, let's talk about some stacks before we get out of here. I mean, there's so many bad pitchers on the slate, right? I mean, even just
Yep.
at first glance, just looking at these guys. I mean, you have Willie Peralta, you have Jordan Lyles, Bubich, you got Coors Field, you have Lester, you have Corbin. I mean, there's a ton going on. Garrett Richards, like, there's so many bad pitchers on this slate. So we'll take Coors Field out of it. Who are your favorite stacks that's not in the Coors Field game for Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's still a ton. I think the top one that I would say is probably the New York Yankees. Outside of that, Atlanta, I really like. Milwaukee, I really like. And Boston, I really like. I think that those are probably my top three, excluding Coors. And then, yeah, I think I'm sticking to those three. I think there are some other stacks, especially if you want to get like lower owned, but I think that those three stand out a pretty good amount.
Yeah, I think outside of course, Boston, Philly, and Atlanta definitely all stick out. Atlanta's probably my favorite. We talk about them a lot. Super good spot for them. My lower owned one is definitely going to be Detroit. Once again, I've been riding the Tigers the last couple weeks. I love Richards is one of my favorite people that I've stacked against recently. I'm going to go back to them tonight with some Tigers in tournaments. If you guys have never watched us before, or if you're new here, thank you for watching. Like I said at the top of this, we would really appreciate it if you just subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. At the end of this, we always give out our home run picks for the slate. So, Bales, give me a home run call, a 24-hour away home run call for Tuesday.
All right, I'm getting slightly cheap with this compared to normal, so I'll change it up a bit. I'm calling Rafael Devers and Aaron Judge both hit home runs.
I like it. You kind of covered some spend ups there, so I'll go a little bit cheaper. I'm gonna go with Austin Riley for my home run call.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good one.
All right, thank you guys very much for watching this. Like I said at the top of this, let us know in the comments if you like the more pre-recorded podcasts that we get out earlier in the day. This is for the Tuesday slate, so we will be back Tuesday night with a video for Wednesday. And good luck tonight, guys.